breaking news in the transition of power as President-elect Trump begins to make appointments. First, sources tell CNN that Kansas Congressman Mike Pompeo has been asked to be CIA director, or that he has been selected by Donald Trump to be his CIA director. Moments before, a source tells CNN the president-elect has selected Senator Jeff Sessions to be Attorney General. Here to discuss that and much more, Florida member of Congress and former chair of the Democratic National Committee, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Congresswoman, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate you being here. Congratulations on your own re-election. You are the first official we've had a chance to talk to since the news of these appointments from Donald Trump selected Jeff Sessions to be Attorney General, Mike Pompeo, your colleague in the House, to be director of the CIA. Your thoughts on these appointments?
Well, whilst these are two certainly experienced elected officials, it is their personal views, particularly Jeff Sessions, that continue the drumbeat, the roller coaster ride that Donald Trump is engaging in who he's surrounding himself with. I mean, let's remember that Jeff Sessions was nominated for a federal judgeship by President Reagan, and at the time was one of only 2 in 50 years to be rejected by the Senate Judiciary Committee, which was controlled by Republicans at the time, because of his previous racist statements and really outrageous comments. I mean, the references he's made to the NAACP, the racist and sexist comments he made, which he at the time owned up to, was not even something that could be stomached by the Republican Senate Judiciary Committee at the time. And so, between the Steve Bannon appointment as his chief strategist, a step and heartbeat next to the presidency, one person who fans the flames and gives permission to sexism, racism, and anti-Semitism on his shoulder, and next door at the Justice Department, a person who also shares those views. It's really getting more and more disturbing and clear that Donald Trump is not trying to bring the country together with the moves he's making right out of the gate.
Jeff Sessions, this was 1986, you're absolutely right, was rejected in committee. He denies making a few of the statements that were attributed to him. He admitted some of the others right there, and he points out, and so do Trump insiders, that he was elected to Senate many times after that, so the people of Alabama, sure, they endorsed him. As for Steve Bannon, you've signed on to a letter among many Democrats who are very concerned about Donald Trump appointing him to this White House job of chief strategist. Yes. But other than a strongly worded letter at this point, there's really nothing you can do about it, is there?
Well, the presidency affords the right of the individual to surround themselves with whom they want at the White House, certainly. But it's also my responsibility as an elected official, as the first Jewish woman to represent Florida in Congress. I take that role very seriously. And when you have someone who is literally the chief strategist, the top advisor to the President of the United States, who has given permission and fanned the flames of anti-Semitism, promoted racist views, promoted anti-Muslim views through a journalistic publication that he led, that's truly problematic and disturbing. It sends a strong and clear message as to kind of policies that are going to be promoted by this administration. And we can't take. It means that we can't take Donald Trump at his word after he was elected a couple of weeks ago that he intends to bring the nation together. Having someone who is literally a door in the hallway away from the President of the United States, who believes that women who are feminists, for example, don't want husbands, don't love their children, and essentially have no right to be supportive of women being equals is really outrageous.
I do understand you're talking about articles that were published in Breitbart while Steve Bannon was in charge of it. Just to be clear about that. If we can, I want to talk for a few minutes about the Democratic Party right now, because obviously it's a party trying to figure out what happened more than a week ago and trying to figure out what to do next. And in the House of Representatives, the Democratic caucus, you have all delayed election for leadership posts. And Congressman Tim Ryan, who just appeared on the show a short time ago, has announced he will run against Nancy Pelosi for the job of minority leader. This is why he said the party needs new leadership in the House. We have sound? We had sound?
Well, we're losing. I mean, that's the big story, and I think part of it is our message isn't connecting with working class folks. Black folks, brown folks, white folks, gay, straight, rich, poor, black, white. You know, we got to have a message that connects with everybody. And so I don't want to hang this around Nancy Pelosi's neck. I love her. She's great. She's a mentor. She was amazing as speaker when she was in. But we've got to ask ourselves, who can get us back into the majority?
So is Congressman Ryan right that you have to do something different going forward?
Well, let me just say, Tim Ryan is one of my closest friends in the Democratic caucus, and I have, been proud to fight side by side with him, particularly when we were both, newer members of Congress and standing on the House floor in the 30-something working group and talking about what was important to progressives and younger Americans. But the reality that we're facing here is that we are going to be dealing with a legislative train wreck coming at us at warp speed. And there is nobody, in my mind, that is more battle-tested and prepared or, frankly, savvy enough to be able to go toe-to-toe with Paul Ryan, the Republican leadership, and this really troubling and disturbing administration than Nancy Pelosi. We absolutely have to make sure that when it comes to policy, that we are ready to beat back their really disturbing proposals with our full strength. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't also need to make sure that we broaden the leadership table and that we make sure that we focus clearly on messaging. One of the things that we absolutely have to do is emphasize our economic focus, emphasize the things that we've accomplished. We're the party that rescued the American automobile industry, John. We're the party that pushed through and supported middle-class tax cuts. We're the party that made sure that everyone, which primarily helped people who are of lower income, has access to health care and can go to the doctor when they're sick. And so that message was definitely lost, whether we didn't argue it clearly enough or whether we need to make sure that we have more messengers that people are able to hear and that cut through. It's a really important thing that we do. I just think we need to do it with a more broad-based group of people and more clear and focused strategy.
Quickly,
and I'm confident Nancy Pelosi is committed to doing that.
All right, so number one, you just threw your support behind Nancy Pelosi. I'm not sure that was in question, but you're going to vote for Nancy Pelosi to remain as leader. How about your old job, chair of the Democratic National Committee? Who do you support to be the next chair of the Democratic National Committee?
Well, I have tremendous respect for my former colleagues at the DNC, and it's their decision, and I'm not going to weigh in on who it should be. I do know that it's going to be important for us to retool and gear up. We've got to focus on both the grassroots. It's going to need to be somebody who can both raise the resources, focus on grassroots outreach, make sure that we continue to build on our digital and organizational successes, and take a hard look at where we need to improve. And I'm confident that the DNC membership will do that.
Taking a pass on DNC chair, but supporting Nancy Pelosi for House Minority Leader.